balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic. Providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, Rick. When I first started this, meaning doing the streaming and everything, I didn't realize necessarily how much effort it's at times has to get put into these kinds of things. Now, why am I talking about this? Believe me, this is not to sit here and, down on my knees, beg for any of your folks's, well, thank you for all the effort, those kinds. No, that isn't the point. Okay. The point of all this is just to demonstrate that there are times where I literally, regardless of, and I am not the sharpest knife in the drawer. I am pretty sharp, I will admit, but I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And so it's difficult sometimes for me to come up with titles that actually reflect what the hell's going on. And when I put these things together, when I put together a show, okay, I try my darndest to tell some kind of story, meaning that I take whatever today's current events are, the ones that I think are the most pertinent to all of you, the ones that I believe are like the top of top concern, and I attempt to take them and try to put them together in such a way that it tells, or at least flows, with a theme or a mantra. And there's times where I'll go and sometimes, yes, the segues are like really cheesy or really far-fetched. I get that. It happens. But today I was trying to put everything together, and I was sitting there in the back of my mind trying to think, like, what in the heck could I call this show? Smorgasbord's the only way to do it. It really isn't. There really wasn't any other way for me to necessarily describe what I'm about to talk to you about, because every single one of these things, for the most part, there's a couple that are kind of tied together, but just about every single article or news piece that I want to talk to you about today, they're all disjointed. I mean, you can think of it as kind of like a jambalaya of sorts, but in this particular case, I'm not sure how it's actually going to taste. I think it's going to be, well, let's just put it this way. It's going to be a total blast of just different things, different pieces, different items across the board. So I'm not necessarily apologizing. I'm just saying, this ain't going to be the smoothest thing in the world, and I don't even know how I'm going to do segues all the way across all of these things. I don't know. All right, let's go ahead and get things started. But see, I was racking my brain so much that I forgot to actually change over the Pledge of Allegiance individual. So hang on just a second while I get that switched, because I got to switch it, Can't have somebody do it twice on the same. Anyway, so there we go. All right. So tonight's Pledge of Allegiance is going to be led by 3 Chevy. But before we do that, I do understand apparently that there is that Judge Wild, who does his own show, I don't know, 3-4 times a day, a couple different shows on Rumble. You guys got to go and check it out. But what you need to do is go and check it out. But apparently every so often he features me. He does something with me. I don't know what it is. He does like a photo with me, or, it's mostly sound bites. But apparently I now have another one that I have to go back because I have to go back and listen to. So it was apparently this afternoon's show that I need to go and take a listen to kind of to see what the heck Judge Wild is doing. Now, Judge Wild, by the way, is not necessarily responsible for this background, but he did send me a bunch of backgrounds that had this in it, which was the inspiration and everything for it. In fact, the background before this one was one that he had sent me, and apparently it took all of us really smart people something like 6 to 9 months to figure out that one of the words was misspelled in the thing. Anyway, so so that's why I put this. That's why I created this one and put it in here. But he's got a wet paint series. He's got a wet paint series that he did for me and sent to me that I haven't debuted here yet on the show, but I will probably do that soon, because I'll admit the background here is starting to kind of, it's getting a little old. It's time to change it up. So I'm going to try and like swap it to one of the wet paint ones coming up. So yeah. So we will take a look at those, and I'll see if I can get one of those put in the next few days. All right, let's go ahead now that I've done all that, let's go ahead and get 3 Chevy up on tap, because 3 Chevy is just a fantastic Whiskey Warrior P1 up on tap for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mind, please stand, remove your hat if you're wearing one, like me, and follow along with 3 Chevy. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with 3 Chevy as he recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, and of course, as always, we thank you for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you'd like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself performing the pledge in your style. And whether that is an audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, you can go ahead and attach that to an email and send it off to me. Send it to fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans, F-A-N-S, at AmericanPerspective.online. And I will, of course, get you into the rotation. All right, so tonight is, of course, one of our favorite days of the week.
Down to business.
That's the nectar of the gods, baby.
It is Whiskey Wednesday. It's like Taco Tuesday, but for badasses. And, of course, I am usually drinking a wonderful, fantastic, and great bourbon. But this time, we kind of went through a little bit of a heat wave yesterday. We actually got into our... temperature up to in the low 70s yesterday, which was amazing. My wife absolutely loved it. She got outside. She did, Mrs. Whiskey did a bunch of yard work and stuff outside. But tonight I am drinking a actual spiked Arnold Palmer. Okay. So now people asked, what the heck is an Arnold Palmer? No, the old Arnold Palmer, okay, is a half and half iced tea, sweet tea generally, and half and half sweet tea and lemonade. So my son got me this for this past Christmas, and I've been wondering kind of how to drink it. So this is the Twisted Tea. It is actually sweet tea whiskey. Now, normally I don't go for like the flavored whiskeys and stuff, but here it is. So Twisted Tea, sweet tea whiskey, and I mixed it with about a 2-to-1 ratio with lemonade, and so that's what I've got in my jar, my good old mason jar for right here. So there we go. Because it is getting kind of warm here in the studio, I may have to turn on the fan for the old computer down here to see this. Yeah. Yeah. It looks like I'm getting some heat from a couple of my longtime Whiskey Warrior P1s over on the over on the Rumble channel. But anyway, there you go. All right, let's go ahead and yes, the cowboy hat does have vents there, Judge. All right, let's go ahead and get things kicked off with tonight's sponsor, which, of course, because it is Wednesday, that means that it is TGRN night. That stands for True Grit Roots Network. And by the way, if you have downloaded, if you had downloaded the WTBR radio app, that is the Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio app that we've had for, I don't know, probably about a year and a half, whatever it is, you need to switch. Okay, that's the big announcement. You need to switch. We have a new app. It aligns with the same app that we have posted for Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. And so you need to get rid of that other app and download the actual labeled Walter Trout Blues Rock Radio app from either your App Store or Google Play. Okay? And the reason being is because of the fact that there's some different features in the new app. So, yeah, I would suggest that you head on over and grab that. You can do that by heading over to tgrn.net. And as you can see, we've got the links. They're right here. This one's for the DMOR, Dallas Moore Outlaw Radio. The other one on the other side of the screen from me is for Walter Trout Blues Rock. And if you click on the appropriate link for what you are looking for, you will be redirected directly to the appropriate app. And so that's the big announcement from True Grit Roots Network, is that our signature channels now have signature apps. And so go and download them and listen to them today. I've been watching the number of people that have been listening to both stations, and I can tell you with fair certainty that they are both popular. So if you go and check out one or both, and definitely pick all of that up. Head on over to tgrn.net where we have all of that. Or if you really don't want to listen to the download, don't want to download the app, that's fine. You can listen through your browser. As you can see, these two widgets are running right now on our website. And so all you have to do is click the play button and you'll be able to listen to one or both if you're really in that kind of a mood, although crashing music would probably drive you nuts. But anyway, yeah, go and check it out. Go to tgrn.net. That's TGRN as in Nancy.net. That stands for True Grit Roots Network, based out of Austin, Texas. And of course, we thank you for listening and definitely, listening in. It's fantastic. All right. So let's go ahead and get this smorgasbord kicked off. So I mentioned a couple of nights ago that Donald Trump was thinking of getting rid of Veterans Day and replacing it with something called Victory Day for World War II folks. And it's like a, celebration holiday or whatever. Well, apparently, maybe not my words specifically, but the general sense that Donald Trump got was, yeah, don't ruin Veterans Day there, buddy. So he went ahead and is now announced that, no, it's actually tomorrow. So here we go.
Thank you very much. Before we begin, I'm pleased to announce that I've just signed a proclamation officially designating tomorrow, May 8th, as a Victory Day for World War II, commemorating the 80th anniversary of America's victory in the Second World War. All over the globe, our World War II allies are celebrating this week, but the United States has never joined in with the proper celebration of our own, and the victory was mostly accomplished because of us. Whether you like it or not, we came into that war and we won that war, and we had a lot of help from a lot of great people, a lot of great allies. but I think there would be nobody that would say that we were not the dominant force in that war, and we don't celebrate it. And I think that's a great disservice to the people that lost their lives and people that fought so hard in winning World War II, and also a separate Victory Day for World War I, and we're going to be doing that too. It was American tanks and ships and trucks and airplanes and service members that vanquished the enemy 80 years ago this week. Without America, the liberation would never have happened. And so we have to pay tribute and homage to those people that gave us victory. And we did something else that people don't talk about. We rebuilt the world. All of these countries that were destroyed, we helped them rebuild. And that's something that, for the most part, others did not do. So with this proclamation, we are hereby honoring the incredible sacrifice and heroism of millions of Americans who served in World War II, along with the unprecedented mobilization, home front that helped deliver this great triumph. All Americans should take pride in what these incredible patriots have achieved. So I just want to say happy Victory Day to all. So we are celebrating every year now. I can guarantee for 4 years, but I think after that we're going to have 2 Victory Days, World War I and World War II. This is World War II Victory Day. In the future, we're going to have a major celebration of each day. We're not going to have days off because we don't have enough days in the year. We have too many celebrations already. But
Okay, so I'm going to pause him right there. Anyway, the point is, though, that now we have Victory Day for World War II veterans, which is tomorrow, May 8th. Now, what I am kind of curious about, which I'm going to have to look at the proclamation to see if there's any instructions or any American flag flying instructions, because of the fact that if this is going to be one of those where it's going to be a half staff kind of day or not. So we're going to have, I'm going to have to check that out to make sure, and you may want to check that out too. I haven't heard anything yet, so I don't think, I've signed up for a couple of automated services that send out flag mentions, and yeah, so I haven't received anything, so I don't know if that's something that's true or not, but anyway, we'll just have to take a look and see if they do. So anyway. All right. Well, Pam Bondi apparently has delivered, at least answered a question or two and made some remarks on the Epstein files. You remember that the Epstein files, the first release was kind of a non-starter. It didn't really have anything in it that we didn't already know, which was very disappointing to many people and also kind of got that White House into a little hot water. Well, she was on C-SPAN, I think it was today, and she made a couple of comments. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what Pam Bondi had to say. Now, you're not going to hear at the beginning of it, you're not going to be hearing the question that's being asked, unfortunately, by the reporter, because the microphone is actually pointed in the wrong direction for this. But you will hear Pam Bondi's answer. Here you go.
No, the FBI, they're reviewing, there are tens of thousands of videos of Epstein with children or child porn. And there are hundreds of victims. And no one victim will ever get released. It's just the volume, and that's what they're going through right now. The FBI is diligently going through that. I haven't seen that statement, but I'll call him later and find out.
So for those of you that may not know, Virginia Giuffre who was one of the Epstein victims, one of the more publicized Epstein victims, unfortunately took her own life, or at least that's the story right now, took her own life recently. And her father has come out and saying, no, she wasn't suicidal. Those kinds of things, that's, anyway, the whole thing is a sad story all the way around. But the fact of the matter is that I think the public really, I don't necessarily want to know about Epstein being with the kids. I mean, we all know that he was doing this with underage girls. And we all know about that. And she basically, is saying that, yeah, there's thousands of hours of video with him, with the girls, and other porn type stuff. I want to know what's in the black book. I want to know what is his client list. I don't necessarily care who, or what they did. I want to know who was a constant, customer of this sicko. Who was the one who was running around with all of these kids? Not just who flew on the plane. I want to know who went to the island. I want to know who spent more times at the island. That's what I want to know. I don't care about what they did. We all know at least a very generic version of what happened. I mean, it's no real surprise. You've got young girls, you've got sex tapes, and then, I mean, most of us at least have a fundamental understanding of what sex actually is. So we don't need to know what they did. We need to know who. Not who they did, but who did the doing. That's what we need to know. So all of this stuff, in my mind, is just sort of fluff. It's just sort of to drag us along, honestly. Whether or not they're doing it that way, I have no idea. I can't claim one way or the other. I'm just saying it seems a little weird that they're not releasing the actual list of the perpetrators. That's what they need to release. I don't care about the rest. And if you want to go after them in court about it, which unfortunately there is a statute of limitations to crimes like this. It's not like murder where there literally is no statute of limitations. But in these kinds of crimes, it's usually something on the realm of 7 to 10 years. If this stuff happened 20, 30 years ago, the chances of them actually prosecuting over this is very, very slim. So just release the black book. Release the client list. And don't black it out. I mean, anybody who's on the client list should be able to explain or defend themselves realistically. Not that if they are there because of whatever reason. But yeah, I'm just, I'm sorry. My patience is kind of wearing a little thin with this administration on this particular topic. They just need to release the client list. Who cares? Again, who cares what they did? Unless you're planning on and have the ability to prosecute these people. But the longer you take, the longer the more chances you have of running out of the statute of limitations. And so just release the client list and let's call it a day. All right. Anyway. Okay. So, I told you these things are going to be disjointed as hail. All right. So do you remember not too long ago, I was telling you about James Woods. I was telling you about the wildfires that took out a portion of Los Angeles, and, burned people's homes down. We recall the press, meetings with President Trump. Yeah, I don't think he was president then, but he was talking to, the mayor. I think her name's Karen Bass. And he brought up the point. He's like, hey, you know what? We need to remove all the red tape. All of the red tape that is down here in terms of rebuilding. We need to remove all of that. And do you remember Karen Bass sitting there and saying to the president's face, okay, to the president's face, and said, yes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to get these, rebuilding permits. They're going to be approved. They're going to go through, so on and so forth. And not too long ago, I showed you an article, or I presented an article to you that basically said, hey, it's been, like 40 days or 30 days or 90 days, whatever it's been. And there's only been 8 rebuilding permits that have actually been approved. Well, guess what? That wonderful small number has made it into double digits, but only by a little bit. They've only approved 31 so far, according to this Breitbart article. Developer Rick Caruso warned on Wednesday that Los Angeles is at the tipping point of failure in the effort to recover from the Palisades fire, adding that the private sector should be given a greater role in recovery. So Caruso, who ran against Karen Bass in 2022, has published a, they call it an op-ed at the website of his new nonprofit foundation known as Steadfast LA, which has worked to provide solutions to challenges in the rebuilding process. Okay. In his essay he published on the 4th anniversary of the fire, by the way, Caruso warned that the city adopted a self-congratulatory posture while ignoring the major challenges still facing displaced residents, and that it was actually failing to help those who are trying to rebuild their homes. He noted in his piece that only 31 building permits had been approved by the city, and that residents feel that much of what the city is doing is being done under a veil of secrecy. Yeah, that's what happens, folks, when you deal with Democrat-run places. All they care about is their taxes. That's it. That's all they care about. It's taxes and money. That's it. And, to be honest with you, when Karen Bass was sitting there in front of all the cameras saying, yes, we're going to remove the red tape and we're going to make things so much easier. We're going to be able to get those rebuilding permits put out as quickly as possible. I know my impression of her is horrible, but the point is, yeah, they are failing to do this. And you wonder why people are getting tired of Democrat control. You sit here and you wonder why people are getting, upset with Democrats and their tyrannistic behavior, or tyrannical, I guess is the better term, tyrannical behavior when it comes to doing just simple things, like rebuilding a home that was already in place, that got lost because of the fact that you, as the government, failed in your one singular mission, which is to protect the general public from things like fire, like crime. I mean, seriously, that is the one thing that government is supposed to do, is to help protect the general public from things like fire and crime. You know, back in the day, back in ancient times, they had these wonderful things known as guards. And the royal family protected the populace with these guards. It was designed, and they built walls for these guards to help protect the kingdom. That was the whole point. They were supposed to protect the kingdom, and they failed to do that in their one job. And now they're failing to allow their constituents, the people who voted them in, admittedly. So, I mean, I guess in a way, this is kind of a matter of like self-immolation. They voted them in, and now they're getting what they voted for, which is a whole bunch of people who are ineffective at doing the one thing and the one thing only that government is supposed to be able to do, and that is to protect them. Anyway, So this is just sad. I feel so bad for these people, for everybody that lost their homes, except for maybe, Biden, young Biden. But anyway, so yeah, I feel sad for those people who have to deal with all of this, but believe me, I feel your pain because I would be in generally probably the same boat that you're in, with regards to the fact that, I live in a Democrat run state and county and stuff. Anyway, so there you go. All right. Well, here we go again. So apparently these judges, and I know this is like, sometimes these stories are just like, oh my gosh, I'm just so tired of talking about this. But the reality of it is we sort of have to. These judges, these district court judges don't seem to get when the Supreme Court put on Boasberg's, and lifted Boasberg's order and said, hey, you're not the proper venue for this. Maybe the rest of the judges should have taken note and been like, maybe they're right and I'm wrong and I'm not supposed to be delving in this. Well, we have another judge that has decided to basically say, kiss my ass, Supreme Court. Because here, and of course they're a Clinton-appointed judge. Not that I really care who appointed them, to be honest with you, but yeah. I mean, I don't really, like I said, I don't really care necessarily who appointed them. Because let's face it, in the political sphere of wrangling, okay, that happens. You'll have a Bush-appointed judge who actually is a raving leftist lunatic, or you'll have a Obama-appointed judge who is actually a conservative, because that's the way the things work. It's like, hey, if you pass my legislation, then I'll give you, 10 or 15 judges or something. And I won't even question. I'll just nominate them and we won't even question who they are. So anyway, so this guy, a person, sorry. And she's in New York, or is it a she? Yes. No, it's a guy. Oh my gosh. And he's 91 years old. What the hell is he doing on the bench? Anyway, Judge Alvin Hellerstein, who is a 91-year-old Clinton appointee, issued a preliminary injunction halting the enforcement of the Alien Enemies Act in the Southern District of New York. He argued that illegal aliens, including suspected gang members, are entitled. Here we go again. Anybody want to put in the chat what my next few words are going to be? So let me just stop and pause. Okay. That illegal aliens, including suspected gang members, are entitled to what? What do you think it is? And I know people on the audio portion of the program are probably screaming at their devices, whatever device they're listening on, and they're basically saying, it's whatever. Yes, 3 Chevy, number 1. He's the first one that got in. Due process. What the hell is this with due process? I mean, seriously. Due process is outlined in the Constitution, but that's for United States citizens. They didn't get due process when they crossed the border. They, in fact, bypassed due process when they crossed the border illegally to come in here, into our country. They don't deserve due process. The same due process that they took coming in is the same due process that we should give them going back out, okay? Their due process is essentially, you stand in front of an immigration judge. The immigration judge says, hey, did you cross the border illegally? Yes. Okay. Well, guess what? You're going home. You come here the right way. I mean, anyway, Hellerstein wrote in a 23-page order, according to this piece in the Daily Fetch, quote, "This nation was founded on the self-evident truths that all men were created equal. Can somebody explain to me what that has to do with crossing the border illegally? Anyway, all right, moving on. That they are endowed by their creator with certain inalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Okay. Hey, I agree with that. I mean, that is the Declaration of Independence. So he goes, and he continues on and says, our Constitution embodies these truths. In a limited government with enumerated powers, well, at least he's admitting that, in its systems of checks and balances separating the legislative, executive, and judicial branches, and in its guarantee that neither citizen nor alien to be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Okay, again, stand him up in front of a court. Immigration courts, by the way, which is what's supposed to be handling this, not the federal district court system, because that was also put out here by the Supreme Court, who basically said, no, it's supposed to be handled by the immigration. You know, immigration is 100% in the hands, after the law's been written, is 100% in the hands of the executive. There's no judicial part to it. Anyway. Well, here's the thing. Deprived of life, liberty, or property. Again, that has to deal with the Constitution of the United States that applies to U.S. citizens. Now, we can give them a human right, as Buddy Weiser points out. Human rights are the only rights that illegal aliens have. Whoops, wrong one. Human rights. Okay, that's right. Human rights. We will give them life. We will give them liberty. We will provide them with the opportunity to gain property outside of our country. They can go elsewhere. They don't need to be here. They crossed the border illegally. They broke the law, which, by the way, I'd like this judge to explain to me. And I'm just saying, explain to me how a criminal, somebody who has done a crime, broken a law, such as stealing, okay? Or even worse yet, let's go all the way up to like assault, or maybe even worse, all the way up to murder. We, under our Constitution, deprive them of liberty, property, and sometimes if you're in a death penalty state, their life. And all of that is constitutional. So how is it that an illegal alien who breaks the law comes here and breaks the law by crossing the border illegally without documentation, without any purpose of being here, is all of a sudden afforded something, according to this judge, that we don't even afford our own criminals? Can somebody explain that to me? I'd like to really understand where these Democrats are getting off on the idea that these people, meaning these illegal aliens that are coming into our country, have more due process than our own criminals. Because that's what this judge is trying to point out. He's trying to point out that neither a citizen nor alien be deprived of life, liberty, or property. We do that all the time. These people have their day in court, okay? And when they have their day in court, then they get booted home because there is absolutely no other recourse or recompense that you're going to be able to do for these people, these individuals, these illegal aliens who are not supposed to be here in the first place. And regardless of what anybody thinks, they aren't a citizen. Yeah. So, anyway. Thanks, Bonnie, for telling me I need a drink. You're right. Anyway. These people, I mean, I want to ask this judge, hey, judge, you say that no alien should be deprived of life, liberty, or property, right? Okay. What do we do with criminals all the time? Yeah, exactly. Anyway, his new order apparently is now saying, well, it's now saying that it indefinitely suspends the Trump administration's use of the use of the Alien Enemies Act in the district. Oh, there's the key, in the district. So, yeah. This is going to be quite interesting when all of these hit the Supreme Court, because, the Supreme Court has actually demonstrated in past cases about immigration that it's the executive branch that actually does the immigration piece, that it's the executive branch that actually controls that immigration piece based on the laws that were written by our legislative body known as the Congress. So, anyway. All right. I can't deal with these people. They're just so nuts. They're just so crazy. But anyway. All right. Well, before I move on to the next piece, I want to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about Truth Social. So, Truth Social, first of all, I'm on Truth Social. Why are you not on Truth Social? You should be on Truth Social, because Truth Social is the only place that you are going to actually get the words of our president of the United States in his own words, reportedly, and his announcements that he puts out on Truth Social direct to the public. He doesn't like using the mainstream media because of the fact that the mainstream media literally twists his words into all kinds of stuff and can't tell when he's making a joke either. In fact, I heard it described that Donald Trump has a laser pointer in his hand, and the mainstream media is all the cats that he's like running around in circles. If you've ever done that with your cat, if you have a cat, or any cat, if you've ever done that with a cat, it is hilarious. It is so funny to do. But anyway, let's talk about Truth Social. If you're looking for a great place online for news, discussion, and entertainment, then check out Truth Social, Donald Trump's social media website. You'll get breaking news stories and commentary from top media figures. Hey, wait a minute. I'm not on Truth Social. Oh, I guess, well, I am, but, well, does that make me a top media figure then? Anyway, if you want to see Trump's legendary Truth Social posts, then get on Truth Social today. Join a growing community of patriots on a free speech platform designed to avoid censorship and cancellation by big tech. Make your voice heard. Join the movement. Join Truth Social. And all you have to do is go to truthsocial.com, sign right up. It's free. That's all you have to do. truthsocial.com. and sign right up. In fact, those two videos that I showed at the beginning of the program came from Truth Social. All right. So, this is another judge who I think has overstepped their boundaries. No surprise, it's a leftist moron. But take a look at this. A judge has blocked a school board from removing explicit books, saying that it's unconstitutional to follow conservative values. What? Apparently, this judge has never read the First Amendment, which talks about religion, which is a conservative value. Apparently, this judge has never read the First Amendment that talks about freedom of the press and freedom of speech. Again, conservative values. Apparently, this judge has never read the Second Amendment, which talks about defending yourself with whatever weapon that you want, that the government can't take away from you. That's a conservative value. I mean, we could just continue on down the list. I mean, just about everything in the first 10 amendments is a conservative value. Where do you think they came from? Anyway, So this school board in Colorado apparently cannot remove sexually explicit, profane, and transgender books from school libraries because the school board itself is conservative, according to this federal judge. And by the way, this federal judge, according to this piece, is touted as the first openly lesbian judge west of the Mississippi. Correlation? Maybe. Causation? Maybe. Anyway, the ACLU's Colorado chapter filed a suit on behalf of two minors, the NAACP Wyoming State Area Conference and the Authors Guild, all claiming that the school district engaged in viewpoint discrimination when removing the books. Really? They did. So what happens if my 10-year-old son wants, Penthouse, Playboy, I'm going to be dating myself here if I put Hustler, porn magazines into the kids' library? What about that? I mean, this has already been litigated. I mean, realistically, this has already been kind of litigated. So why they're even bothering to go down this path is beyond me. But there's a reason why certain articles and certain materials are not allowed in elementary school, middle school, and even up into the high schools. Okay, there's a reason for it. It's inappropriate, period. I mean, it's bad enough that, they're sitting there talking in high school classrooms about, sexual explicit, how to, have sex or masturbate or any of these other things that are talked about in terms of, health. I mean, that's important. Don't get me wrong, for some aspect of it in terms of the physical health and biology of the whole thing. But this is ridiculous. You can't have these kinds of books. I mean, again, you can't have these, what would be considered, I mean, I'm going to use a terminology that's probably pretty old, but called smut in the classrooms of all these places. And yet this is something that can't be blocked by the school board. The school board is the elected leaders that represent the community, that are supposed to be the figures, the government figures that dictate to the schools, hey, these kinds of things are not what we're going to do. This is why the federal government, again, shouldn't have any say and shouldn't constitutionally have any say in any of this. This should go back to the states and the local school boards. This is exactly why the Constitution and the framers of the Constitution went ahead and, created the Constitution in such a way where they didn't have education as a part of the federal government, because it was supposed to be small and limited in size and scope. That's the whole point. So Judge Charlotte Sweeney second-guessed the school district's objections to the book's contents, calling the objections pretextual, and condemning the removals as partisan because school board members had discussed following their conservative convictions when debating the removal of books. Okay, folks, just going to throw this out here, okay? I'm just going to throw this out here. There's this thing known as religion, and religious beliefs have certain values and certain standards that are perceived to be beneficial to society. And that benefit comes from a long history. We're talking thousands of years, if not more, of history where certain things were generally frowned upon. They have found their way into religious beliefs. And religion, if I recall, is supposed to be hands-off by the government. So if the entire school board and the entire community comes up and the majority say, yeah, that's a no-go, guess what? That's a no-go. Okay? That's it. It's done and over with. I mean, it's no different, honestly, it's no different than societal values in terms of copulating in public, okay? I mean, you don't go around on a public bus and like drop your drawers and get, well, anyway, I'm not going to go any farther than that. You get my point. So why would you allow this kind of materials to be in front of your kids anyway? I mean, that's the whole point, right? You're supposed to be setting a certain set of standards, societally speaking, and it starts with going to school to understand these societal standards. School and at home are supposed to marry each other, meaning not marry as in M-A-R-R-Y, but marry as in together, do the exact same thing, which is focus on societal values that are to carry these youngsters further on in life into being well-behaved, well-mannered adult people. Having this kind of crap is a bunch of junk. I mean, it really is. It literally is. So anyway, we'll have to see what goes on here with this one. But, yeah, oh, thank you. Compliment each other. Yes, thank you, Jarhead. That's a much better terminology for that. But anyway, Judge Wild is saying, oh, I've got some good material. Too bad I don't have time to do it. Judge, this is recorded. You can play it back later. Not saying that you necessarily want to, but you could. Anyway, these people, they're just so freaking, I mean, this is the demoralization of our country and our culture is basically what this boils down to. I mean, this is just a total, they're taking morality and they're just throwing it out the window for the sake of what they consider to be progressivism. And that's not what this country is all about. That's not what society is all about. In fact, there's a specific big, huge empire. The big, huge empire that I'm thinking of that was the downfall primarily because of corruption and debauchery and all kinds of other stuff. It's called the Roman Empire, folks. Yeah. The Roman Empire. So anyway. Jeez. All right. Well, here's a good thing. I mean, I've been kind of talking about some bad things that have been going on. But here's a good thing. Here's a good thing that just came out. And this is another Trump executive order, which this falls into my category of essentially, or at least the subject matter of the executive order, falls into the category that I essentially call just because you can doesn't mean you should. Check this out. In the populist times, Trump's executive order pulls the plug on gain-of-function research funding to, quote, prevent another pandemic. Yeah. So here's the thing. Gain-of-function research. What is its point? Well, its point is to take a virus that is normally not deadly and make it deadly. That's what it's supposed to do. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Look, I'm just going to point this out. Sometimes there's some things in this world that we really shouldn't mess with. Okay? Like tugging on Superman's cape. Or peeing into the wind. You know? Don't mess around with Slim. I mean, let's just round it out for the entire song. But just the point that I'm making, gain-of-function research, is there any kind of things... Is there any kind of things that you could sit here and say that this is a benefit in some way? Gain of function, like let's make something that is normally innocuous even worse. And, you know, there's going to be some good that comes out of that. Yeah. No. It's just not. I mean, seriously, I can't even understand why any sane scientist was sitting there saying, you know what would be a good thing? What would be a good thing is us creating a bomb that has, this unintended consequences because we really don't know what the heck we're messing with. And we're going to make that bomb, actually, we're going to increase it and make it even stronger. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so Trump basically has said, okay, our funding of that is over and done with. Thank goodness. So he's pulling the plug on gain of function research. And pretty much that is kind of one of the things that we voted for. I mean, let's just face it. COVID was a real screw up and total in the case of our funding. We funded it. Now, for those of you that don't know the historical situation on this, we being America, banned gain of function research within our borders a long time ago. That's part of the reason why they had to go to China to do this gain of function research. Okay? And keep in mind, too, by the way, that most of the time this gain of function has nothing. I'm glad to see some of my rumblers picked up on the song. Has nothing to do with what happens and occurs in nature. Throughout all of nature, a strong virus comes out. Okay? A virus comes out and it is of its most lethality, and then it realizes through whatever reason, it's all of a sudden through every mutation, it gets weaker through every mutation. It doesn't get stronger because the virus itself has to survive. It has to survive, and it can't kill off the host all the time. And so scientifically, while not so scientifically speaking, there has never been a naturally occurring virus that has gotten worse. They've only dropped off in terms of lethality. Okay? And so this idea that we can take something that's not very lethal and make it lethal, you're going against nature. You're going back against the natural order of things, the way God intended stuff to happen. And anyway, this kind of falls into, again, it falls into that just because you can doesn't mean you should. And realistically, we should realize that, hey, you know what? That probably isn't the smart thing to do. It's sort of like knowing that there's electricity in the outlet on the wall, and you're going to go ahead and stick a metal butter knife into the damn thing anyway, just to see what happens. Anyway. Dangerous gain of function. Now, this is part of the, I think it's part of the order. It says dangerous gain of function research on biological agents and pathogens has the potential to significantly endanger the lives of American citizens. If left unrestricted, its effects can include widespread mortality, an impaired public health system, disrupted American livelihoods, and diminished economic and national security. That was part of the executive order. So there you go. All right. Anyway. All right. So I got to tell you, there is a few people that are in government, all right, that I follow, that I take a look at, that I pay attention to. And one of them is a gentleman by the name of Byron Donalds. Now, Byron Donalds is I'm going to say a staunch conservative. I haven't ever really seen him, break up in terms of that. But a staunch conservative. I've never seen him really necessarily change his stance on stuff like that. But Thanks, Jarhead. And thanks, Judge, for calling my attention to it. Anyway, Byron Donalds went on to Meet the Press and kind of sparred with NBC News' Kristen Welker. And I just like listening to this guy. He handles himself quite well in front of the press. And I think he just does a really good job with this in terms of this thing. So let's go ahead and take a listen to Byron Donalds as he spars. We'll use that term. Spars with Kristen Welker. So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Let's talk about that moment when he said, I don't know, when I asked him if he has to uphold the Constitution of as the President of the United States. What was your reaction to hearing?
Okay, before you hear Byron Donalds, I just got to say, I don't think the president was necessarily being serious when he said that he didn't have to follow the. I mean, does this woman really believe that the president of the United States is that damn stupid that he swore an oath to protect the president? To protect the Constitution. He swore an oath to protect the Constitution, to uphold it, support it, defend. I mean, do you honestly believe that Donald Trump? No, this woman's a moron, as are anybody who jumped in with the whole idea that the president himself doesn't know that he is supposed to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. Anyway, listen.
Do you think he has to uphold every part of the Constitution, including the Fifth Amendment?
Well, first of all, let's be clear. I think what the president was talking about is, yes, he's going to uphold the Constitution. He's taking advice from his legal team, led obviously by the White House counsel, the Attorney General of the United States, everybody working at the Department of Homeland Security, about all the parameters that they are using to deport illegal aliens out of this country, which is the core of President Trump's victory last November. Let's remember, the American people have been clear that they want criminal illegal aliens, number one, and then illegal aliens overall returned to their home countries. Donald Trump is fulfilling that promise. Now, I think to the broader question in this entire situation, is it okay for the previous administration to abuse the border security laws, abuse asylum, abuse temporary protected status, open up the country to millions of people, and then hide behind due process where it would take us 15 years to actually process people back out of the United States?
You're talking about the numbers. You're saying there are so many people here that it would just take too long. But let me ask you, I mean, the Constitution says that everyone who's here is entitled to due process. So I understand there are big numbers that you are talking about and that the president is dealing with. But if you're going to follow the Constitution, don't you have to follow what it says by letter and law?
Well, I think first, the other thing is you have to look at this. When you come in, let's say on an asylum package, that is at the discretion of the administration. The administration is now saying, you know what? We are going to have a legal detainer for you to be deported, and you are going to be removed from the United States. That's under the premise of how you came in. Second thing, every illegal alien that came here, the first thing they did is they broke the law. Illegal alien that came to our country, they broke the law. Let's level set here. That's what they did. So there is an orderly process that the president and his team is going through. They're not just rounding up people and dropping them out of the country. That is not true. Everybody that's been deported to this point has had a legal deportation order executed by the president's administration.
But in this case, in the case of Kilmer Abrego Garcia, the administration said it was an administrative error. And in 2019, an immigration judge issued an order that's still in effect that he should not be deported back to El Salvador. And I guess this goes back to the question that I was asking to President Trump. Do you think that everyone, citizens and non-citizens, are entitled to due process?
Well, first and foremost, let me be clear with you. When it comes to due process, that is a privilege reserved for American citizens. When people are in our country illegally, there is a semblance of due process, but not nearly at the level of a United States citizen, of an American. There are two different standards.
There's the key. There's the kicker. And this is where she's going to, I mean, all the leftists, honestly, all the leftists are going to freak out over this. I mean, they really are. But he's right. He is exactly correct. So anyway, I'm sorry I interrupted. Let me go ahead and let it go.
You come to America, you are a guest in the United States. That privilege can be revoked. And a lot of these illegal aliens were not guests. They showed up at the southern border. Joe Biden abused our laws, ignored our laws, and let them in.
And yet,
so what are the American people supposed to say about that?
Well, the Constitution, I mean, let me just read you. This is the Fifth Amendment. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in the land or naval forces. And then it goes on to say, nor shall any person be subjected for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life, limb, nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself, nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So the Constitution says any person, not citizen, and therein lies the debate and the root of my question. I mean, does any person just apply to citizens in your mind, or does it apply to citizens and non-citizens?
Okay, now she does make a decent point that the Constitution says any person, except there's only one problem. Do we go up to Canada, and do we have Canadians? Canadians? Do we give them due process? Do we fly our judges over to Canada, into Canada, and do due process for them? No. Do we send a foreign national who is here doing a job for an embassy? Do we do anything with them in terms of that? No, we send them, we ask the country to get them out of our country if they do something wrong. So all persons doesn't apply to all persons. And this is the part that she's missing. Even back in history, the United States Constitution did not actually apply to every single person on this continent. Okay? The Native Americans who were here had allegiances to other tribes, and this is part of why I'm sitting here, why I even have the same argument when it comes to birthright citizenship, okay? The American citizens that were here that swore their allegiance to America, they are the ones who are subjected to and afforded the constitutional protections that we all enjoy. Now, as of right now, okay, we have extended that over time to people like the Native Americans, to people like the Eskimos, to people like even the Chinese who came over here weren't originally considered American citizens. So over time and over history, we have extended it to pretty much everyone, with the exception of foreigners who come here to this country. Okay, and are not American citizens. That has been a clear thing that has been throughout history. It doesn't apply to every single person. So unfortunately, I mean, she's just sitting here trying to trap Byron Donalds. Let's see what Byron Donalds says in answer to her question.
The Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, says it applies to citizens and non-citizens.
Well, let's be very clear. First and foremost, when the framers wrote our Constitution, they never envisioned that there would be an executive that would allow millions of people to come into the country illegally. They never fathomed that. Number two, more importantly, you have a situation right now. Is it okay for any administration to not follow the law, abuse border security laws, let millions of people in, and then hide behind the court system to say, well, now they're here, so now we have to go through a lengthy process? Let's examine this right now. Right now, what we know is that when people came into the country illegally, almost 90% of them would not even go to the hearings. So if you're supposed to show up for a hearing and you do not go, what are we supposed to do as a country?
Very quickly, let me just interject, and we're running out of time, and I still have to get to the economy.
Sure.
To your point about the hearings, does Congress need to work harder to get more funding, to get more resources to the courts so that you can better process people who are here, who are undocumented?
In the one big beautiful bill, there will be dollars provided to the administration to speed up the deportation efforts. I will add that one of the things we have to be very sober about is that the gravity upon which all these people have been brought to our country, it is not physically possible to hire that many judges and process them out of the country. This is why you cannot have open borders to begin with.
Okay, let's.
All right, so I have one other point to make on this subject. This young lady, I'm going to say young lady, but anyway, she missed under Article 1, Section 8. And, you know, I have this absolutely fantastic, wonderful Constitution of the United States copy right here in front of me that is leather bound. It's a fantastic item. It's got a 100-year warranty against all materials and workmanship defects, such that you can send it back to the manufacturer to either fix it or replace it for free. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is a full Constitution, pocket Constitution of the United States that you can go and refer to. You can get it by going to constitution.americanperspective.online. That's constitution.americanperspective.online. There's your short ad for that. But number 4, paragraph number 4 under Article 1, Section 8, okay, says that Congress is to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. That right there talks about and clearly states that Congress has to make the laws with regards to how you come in this country and how you become an American citizen. So, wait a second. If every single person who steps on our soil, regardless of birth or anything else, that steps in our soil automatically is supposed to be given due process and have the Constitution applied to them, then why would we even need a naturalization rules? It's an interesting question to ask. What would be the point in establishing a rule of naturalization if everyone who showed up here just automatically became a U.S. citizen? Yeah. That's the whole point. So anyway, yeah, Byron Donalds definitely held his own against Kristen Welker, although not to any discredit of Byron Donalds. She isn't exactly the sharpest knife in the drawer for all of that when it comes to that kind of a thing. So, yeah. Anyway, we're going to be, you know, in terms of the whole conservative versus leftist morons, we're going to be mincing over some of these words and some of these principles that realistically should be just common sense, no-brainer kind of thing. Okay? You really shouldn't. I mean, we shouldn't even be having these discussions. This should be a common sense and logical explanation in terms of what's going on. And anyone who actually could look at our historical values, which, you know, would require research and reading. I know that's kind of hard for some leftist morons that are out there. But the thing about it is that if they would take a look, they would notice that, you know, the Constitution has not really applied to everyone throughout history. It was never intended to apply to everyone throughout history. In fact, the government, when it was created here on this continent, recognized the fact that it would not apply to everyone equally and immediately. So this whole concept where we're sitting here talking about the idea that, yeah, the Constitution applies to everyone because it says all persons. Sorry, but it doesn't. That's a fallacy. That's all persons who are American citizens, certainly. But anyway. All right. Well, here's another falsehood that seems to be carrying through because of, believe it or not, our educational system. So apparently there was a survey that was performed by the Pew Research Center. And the Pew Research Center asked some questions with regards to race, policing, and Black Lives Matter. Now, this is 5 years, of course, after they say the murder of George Floyd. We all know that isn't the case. He died from his self-inflicted fentanyl poisoning. Okay, let's just clear that up right here and right now. But the point is that this Pew Research Center found that a staggering number of surveyed Americans, 49% worth, doubt that black people will ever have, get this phrase, equal rights with white people. Okay. Plain and simple question. And I do this all the time, especially when people are sitting here talking about rights. I throw this out there to any of the liberal leftist moron lunatics that are out here that might be watching this program either now or later. Send me a freaking email. Send it to fans@americanperspective.online. Tell me, give me one single individual explicitly named right that a white person has in America today that a black person does not have. And I want a specific example of this happening. Straight up. I would love to see somebody, I want to know. And again, keep in mind the parameters. You must come up with a specific, articulatable example of this. And I'm not talking about talking in generalities like, well, black people kind of feel oppressed. No, none of that. I want to know one specific example, one specific place where a black person was not afforded the same right, okay, the same right as a white person. And it doesn't even have to be a white person. Let's just we could even expand it. Tell me if there was an Asian person that was not afforded a right as a white person was. Or anything else. I'm going to be sitting there. I'm going to be like Thomas Sowell. I'm going to be sitting there asking this question, and nobody is ever going to send it because there is no answer. And so why we sit here and believe, for whatever reason, because everybody is looking at rights as something slightly different than things like opportunity or privileges or things that are not actual rights. Okay? Because again, and I've used this is the exact same question. It can be applied the same way. I've been told that guns have more rights than women. Yeah. Tell me one, and I'm just saying, tell me one articulable right that a gun has that a woman does not. Or a child. Or anything else. Okay? These people can't seem to get their own heads out of their keisters to understand that a right is different than what cards you've been dealt in life and how you play them. There is a total difference between that and rights. Because again, I want to know what rights a black person was not afforded that a white person was. Now, the problem with all of this, of course, is that we've been fed a whole bunch of lies by the mainstream media with regards to the idea that, black Americans in particular, because we're talking about this article, are oppressed. Okay. Now, usually what ends up coming out, and believe me, I was watching a Charlie Kirk short on this. There was a woman who was talking about black Americans and rights and everything else, just exactly like this article is pointing out here. And this survey was pointing out. But the point here is that the first thing, generally speaking, is that people would say, "Oh, well, look at the prison system. Look at the incarceration of black people compared to white people." Okay, there's no statistical evidence that demonstrates that black people are necessarily being targeted by police. There's literally zero evidence of this, statistically speaking. There is, however, a statistic that demonstrates that 13% of the population, which is black, commits over 50% of the violent crime, and therefore, by its very nature of that particular statistic, that they encounter police more often. But outside of that, there's nothing that demonstrates, outside of that particular statistic, there's nothing that demonstrates that police go out of their way to try and target black folks. Just saying. Just speaking facts here. Okay? So in terms of all of this idea that for some reason that black people have equal rights or will never have equal rights. That's what 49% surveyed said. They will never, ever have equal rights, according to them. All right? Yeah. This is such a fallacy. And why people even sit here and believe this is totally beyond me. But this is the byproduct of a mainstream media propagandist outlet that is demonstrating multiple times that they are warping the facts and the truth and the evidence that is in front of them. Because all they do is they show, how this person, who happens to be of black skin, they got, picked up because they were, I don't know, stealing a car or something. Of course, they don't mention that part. But I mean, seriously, people, this is not the case. A black person has the same rights as a white person, the same rights as an Asian person, same rights as a Native American, same rights as, I don't know if there's anything else other than that. But to sit here and believe it, and this is part of the problem. And of course, they're believing in the whole murder of George Floyd when he wasn't actually murdered. It was based on the actual autopsy, the correct autopsy, the autopsy of record, that he had much more fentanyl in his system than his system could actually handle, on top of all of his other health related issues, like an enlarged heart, for an example. Yeah. Anyway. What's sad here, though, is that 43% of adults say that the country, according to this survey, say that the country hasn't made enough progress on racial equality, which is incorrect. I think we've made extremely great strides, starting back in the 1960s, 1964, 1965, for an example. That ever since then, the only person that, has challenges now, believe it or not, is the ones that are being victimized the most, which is anyone who is not a person of color. And believe me, that includes Asians, because anyone who is a person of color does not look at Asians as a person of color. All right, let me move on. I got a couple more articles here. I'm actually not going to make it all the way through everything. Kind of figured that was going to be the case. Well, I don't know if anybody has noticed, but there's been a lot of talk on the socials by these leftist morons who are talking about this whole thing about, oh my gosh, the FAA, because apparently there have been some more close calls that have come out since the Reagan International collision that happened. But apparently, you're right. You know what? Scratch that. I'll deal with this on another day. That's if I pick it up. You're right. I got a pet of the week to get to. All right. Tonight's pet of the week was submitted by Coco Dominky. And yes, buddy, she did get in just before you in terms of the wire. I think it was actually a day before the wire. So let's go ahead and bring up Coco's. Oh, wait. Where did it go? Why did this get moved? How did this get moved? Really? Seriously. What's going on here? I need to find the pet of the week. Where's pet of the week? Not those. Come on. There it is. Okay. So let's go ahead and get in. Sorry, my cheat sheet for all of my things got tossed off. So anyway, here we go. All right, pet of the week. Okay, so and you'll excuse me while I try and get it set up here off camera because of the fact that I need to switch over to something different. But anyway, as I was saying, it was submitted by Coco Domingue. Now, Coco Domingue obviously owns, oops, did I do that? Hold on. Coco Domingue owns a couple of, oh, I did do it. Okay. A couple of dogs, and she gave them baths, as we, as pet owners, have to from time to time, because let's face it, dogs don't really care if they're clean or not. My dog freaking rolls in anything that smells good to him, which of course doesn't smell good to us. So we have to go and, give them baths. Well, Coco submitted a couple of her after bath videos. And so let's go ahead and take a look at those right now. So first up is a, I don't know what kind of dog this is. It looks like a Pomeranian Shih Tzu kind of, something that I would not call a dog, because as I've said on this program, anything under 30 pounds to me is not a dog. That being said, Dizzy apparently doesn't like to be wet. And so Dizzy utilizes a unique methodology to get rid of the wet. Let's watch.
Is it clean enough? Is it dry enough? Can do it again?
So, if for those on the audio portion of the program, Dizzy is rubbing himself.
I gotta get the wet off and put the dirt back on.
He's rubbing himself on what appears to be a Oriental market, or an Oriental area rug. So trying to scrape it off. Now, that being said, I mean, most dogs, they actually shake. And it looked like Dizzy tried to shake a little bit, but apparently uses the carpet. So, and Coco Domingue tells me that Dizzy is a mix Shih Tzu and Chihuahua. Okay. So this next one, again, also to me looks like a Pomeranian. I'm sure Coco DeWhiskey or Coco is going to go ahead and correct me on that. But this next one is Finnick. And Finnick apparently, well, gets a very unique hairstyle. Let's take a watch.
What you doing, boogers? What you doing, Finnick? Hi, pretty boy.
So Finnick, apparently, for those that are on the audio portion of the program, Finnick's hairs get all crimpy and doesn't have the typical, let's say, Pomeranian, fluff ball kind of thing. So Coco says that Finnick is a Pomeranian Chihuahua mix. Yeah. Anyway, so Coco wanted to let me know to take care, thank all of the wonderful Whiskey Warriors for everything you guys have done. And by that, she's referring to a lot of the Whiskey Warrior P1s for all of the things that are out there. And she says blessings. So, all right. So there you go. That is tonight's pet of the week. We got a twofer on that one. We got to look at Dizzy and Finnick. I do have a submission for next week, which is cool, but you guys got to keep them coming in. You really do. You know, Pet of the Week is like a fan favorite. And so you guys need to be getting Pet of the Week in a lot more. So that being said, if you want to submit your pet for Pet of the Week, please do so by sending me a photo, video, couple of photos, couple of videos, whatever it is, and some type of background story, name, breed, so on and so forth. Send it all, package that up, may even take a couple of emails like it did for Coco. But send it all to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. That's fans at AmericanPerspective.online. Don't forget, too, I have question of the week for Saturday night. I do not have a submission there. So please get your questions in. Same address, fans at AmericanPerspective.online. And thank you, Coco, for allowing us to watch your little pups try to get dry. Yeah, I rhymed with the times. I'm a poet and didn't know it. Okay, that's it. I've had enough. Have a great rest of your evening. Oh, before you take off, don't forget to hit those thumbs up buttons across all of my platforms, whether it's X, YouTube, Facebook, and, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. Also, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are there, search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time I go live. Now I can tell you, you guys have a great rest of your evening. We will see you tomorrow night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time, right here on American Perspective. And good night, everybody.